Guys, in the world where symbols are matter, people and different subcultures were trying to put certain styles, certain colors and accessories to their outfit so it could speak louder than words. And you probably noticed we are wearing our NAFO patches on our clothing and on our backpacks, and this means that we as a community on the right side of history. So if you are not wearing your NAFO patch, please put it on your backpack. Yeah, guys. So, and for example, people who are using fish sign on their car or somewhere on their clothing probably relate themselves to the Christianity, to Christian subculture. And here is why they are putting this sign to communicate with other people and let them know in advance. And of course, all these subcultures on the internet like cottagecore or visco-core, where all these girlies are holding their Stanley cups, it's also silent communication. But what I will tell you today is even more older than American culture itself. I'm sorry, I will elaborate. I know that a lot of Americans are watching me now. Yes, and you support in Ukraine, and I really appreciate everyone and each of you. I just wanted to emphasize that this subject is very old and very important, and this is Ukrainian embroidery. Yeah, Ukrainians were putting their embroidery not only on Vyshyvankas, like clothing. You know, I'm wearing my Vyshyvanka today, not for just for fun, but also for emphasizing. Yeah, and they were putting their Vyshyvanka also on the stylish subject of the houses. And no, do not afraid, fear not, I will not talk about Vyshyvanka as a code of the nation or as a heart of Ukrainian or about Vyshyvanka Day, because you probably already have seen a bunch of videos about this. I do not need to elaborate more than it was have already said by other creators. When I had my holidays, I visited Ivano-Frankivsk and Ukrainian Museum of Vyshyvanka and found that archaeologists traced Ukrainian embroidery up to 10k year BC. They found it on ritual statues and garments thread with gold and silver, and every stitch protected its wearer from birth to burial. Ukrainians wore Vyshyvankas as talismans. They link each generation to the next generation and were guided by faith and heritage, but Soviets hated this clothing and wanted to get rid of it. Why? Soviets were so afraid of Ukrainian national costume with embroidery. They were so scared that they put a lot of money and efforts and propaganda for diminishing Ukrainian embroidery clothing and create artificial term as a sharovarshchyna. Yeah, very difficult word, sharovarshchyna. I will speak about it a little bit later and give you their correct definition. And why so many Ukrainians, post-Soviet of course Ukrainians, were so afraid of wearing this Vyshyvanka even after fall of the Soviet Union, and even more, we were feeling uncomfortable wearing Vyshyvanka. So let's do a deep dive. Soviets were eager to expand the territories of the Union, and they can do it only by oppressing and conquering less defended territories and nations. But that territories were already inhabited by the other people, not Soviets. And Soviets were trying their best to forcefully assimilate such people. They were trying their best to exterminate their culture and vanish their identical memory. Because if you feel slightly different from strangers in red with the gun, you are trying to flee, or worse, trying to liberate your territory. As you may already guess, that similar style, similar tradition, culture and similar language were defining people as a nation that had a roots. But in Soviet Union, they made a goal to make not Ukrainian or Belarusian person or person from other republic that they colonized, but a singular Soviet person that has no any individuality but also live for the aim of the socialism. So, and when you see that diversity, you clearly understand that something goes wrong and people do not want to relate themselves to Soviet reality and to the Soviet nationality actually. 1 minute for praising, guys. Thank you to everyone who supports me, who likes this video, who commenting because it's crucial for algorithm, who are watching this video till the very end because it's very important too, who is sharing my content with family, friends, and their co-workers who are interested in life in Ukraine during the war. And of course, my huge appreciation to who support this channel and its development financially. I'm testing new mic that I have bought for Type-C because I have two devices on which I'm doing these videos. Thank you. It's happening only because of your donations, guys. And my biggest appreciation in this economy, I know it's hard, so please think first about your families and only after about donating to Ukraine. So if you want to participate, please go to the description of this video and find links to my PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee page. All the supporters are receiving personal vlogs one time in a month. Hope my burnout will not be so severe, and I will continue with these personal vlogs, guys. So thank you, God be with you, and let's continue. However, similar to the celebration of church holidays and similar to celebration of the Christmas, they were not able to erase it totally from people. People were wearing their Vyshyvanka, celebrating their holidays secretly, and secretly carried the carried the idea of national identity and sovereignty. In the Khrushchev time, they were thinking about how they can replace the embroidery tradition and how they can minimize it, and made Ukrainians to be ashamed of wearing these national symbols and embroidery. They used the same technology to create another portrait of Ukrainian, like safe Ukrainian, that wearing funky clothing, mixing different physical colors that are not relating, and even combined with the Eton circle pattern regarding the fashion and combination, the style and colors. And these Ukrainians, they were like silly, they were uneducated, they were wearing this funky style, and they were loving to eat vareniki, eat salad, drink gorilka, and after go and dance hopak. In another way, Sharovarshchyna as a term is a representation of Ukrainian rich culture and deep-rooted culture in small peasant, simple folk style. I will give you the samples in the picture so you can compare what is Sharovarshchyna and what is truly Ukrainian style. So if you are living in the constant propaganda machinery, if you have only TV that Soviet Union people had, and even they had no TV, if they were very poor, almost everyone were poor, but some high-class societies, the party leaders and their families, they had a TV, and not only one, guys. So if the TV is saying that Ukrainian clothing, like embroidery, is made for cheap synthetic fabrics and has this poppy flowers everywhere and colors are not matching, and Russian fashion style has a rich color, good combination, good fabric, etc., etc., you are starting to believe in it. So in the cultural sense, they created these different folk ensembles during the USSR, where they called them, like, just smash the name, Ukrainian Folk Ensemble of Dances of Ukrainian USSR, and put on them all this cheap fabric and made women to wear this plastic cheap wreath. And they convinced Ukrainian people that Vyshyvanka is only for folk dancing and silly celebrations that were organized by the party leaders in all Soviet republics. Soviet propaganda was so bizarre at that time that they convinced people that if you're wearing the embroidery, it means that you're an educated person, that you came from the village, and if you're speaking Ukrainian, you just cannot have a good normal job in the cities. If you going to live in the city and study in university, you should speak Russian, you should wear normal Russian clothing, that Russian fabrics produced for you, that has a more wearable quality and color patterns. And even further, Russian also convinced us that Russian embroidery was similar to Ukrainian, and Ukrainians actually took it from Russians, but it's not true. On these images you see that the embroidery is very different, and Russian clothing actually called kosovorodka, and these kosovorodki started to appear only in 15th century. Meanwhile, the history of Vyshyvanka goes to even thousand years ago. Of course, to survive in this bizarre Soviet society, in this Soviet paradise, like it was called by Soviet leaders, yes, Ukrainians had to throw out their Vyshyvanka and even forget them into their old houses in the villages. And by arriving to the cities, they started to wear like Soviet clothing and speak Russia, because they need to put food on the table. They need to work. And on the mills, on the plants during this industrialization period, all the good positions were taken by Russian-speaking people who are not wearing anything that cultural inappropriate for Soviet Union. And Soviet Union has only one culture, it's the Soviet culture. All that was confirmed by the party leader and censorship. Even Ivan Franko, the great Ukrainian poet and social activist, actually he was also a politician, but Soviets hid this fact and referring to him as only poet, because they were afraid of Ukrainian active civil society. You know, he was wearing Vyshyvanka in the daily life in 19th century. So Vyshyvanka was not the clothing only for dancing back or any this cultural funny events that Soviets organizing, because even if you want to organize good, proper cultural event to reveal your heritage and culture, Soviet would not accept this. All the cultural events were under the censorship. And of course, on such cultural events, they represented Ukrainians like silly little brother who has a lack of education, you know. So, and this was it. However, after the fall of the Soviet Union, people still had this trauma. You know, when you're driving a car and suddenly you're pushing on the stop, and car cannot stop immediately, it's still ongoing, it's still driving by itself. This was happened with Ukrainian people. After the fall of the Soviet Union, we could not just shift our minds, because this propaganda were pushing on the decades, and families were raising the children in the aspect of this propaganda, especially on the east of the country, where Russian-speaking society were like former Soviet Union society, and they were raising their kids at 90s, like I was raised in 90s, also in this environment. And when it was a cultural revival, we were hungry for all Ukrainian in 90s, and people were starting to create these Vyshyvankas in the same pattern Soviet Union was creating it. Like with these dizzy poppy flowers just slapped everywhere, and there were no proper embroidery. The fabric was cheap, the wreaths were plastic, their clothing was inconvenient. If you were search information about Euro 2012, it's about football that took part in Ukraine when war has not started yet. The new etap of the war has not started yet, because we are at war with Russia for 300 years, guys. It's like, it's long, actually, guys. So you may have noticed that some entrepreneurs that were selling their goods in the tent, they were selling like sexualized type of this Vyshyvanka t-shirts and Vyshyvanka long sleeve with the flowers that were slapped everywhere, and with such, you know, the absence of fabric here. So I'm sorry for the my French, your teeth were like outside of this Vyshyvanka, and it was awful. But we have done it not to harm our culture. We have done it because we did not understand. And only after 2014, then independent media were rising, people actually told us, the folklorists, the historical people that had a degree in history, they explained us what is real Vyshyvanka actually. And people were starting to compare this piece of fabric with the real art, guys. And for us, it was like revival. And now we are wearing real Vyshyvankas with the honor, and we are not ashamed to wear it. Even Soviet time, Ukrainian Vyshyvanka was just only a cosplay costume or attribute for dancing hopak and entertaining of party leaders. Nowadays, things changed, and we are implementing it in our daily wear with an honor. Yes, guys, because look on these beautiful patterns, this beautiful sewing, how this belt looks like. It looks attractive for wearing, and you understand that it has a rich color. CTA to this video, guys. If you want to buy Vyshyvanka and wear it inside of your country and city and community, please do so. You not only support Ukrainian business, but also appreciate Ukrainian culture. It's not a cultural appropriation. As a Ukrainian, I'm authorizing this for you guys, for real supporters of Ukraine. So, it's cultural appreciation. And if you are wearing Vyshyvanka, you actually show into the world that Ukrainian people are seen, and Ukrainian issues and problems are seen, and Ukrainian culture and style is not the product of silly little brother of Russia. It's actually great product that had an ancient roots and rich culture. So guys, you're welcome to buy your Vyshyvanka, you're welcome to wear it, and also spread and advocate for Ukraine through your social media. It will be wonderful. So thank you for watching this video till the very end. I'm so appreciative of you. I appreciate you very much. And put the likes to this video and subscribe on my channel. Guys, see you in the next one. Bye bye. God be with you.